My name is Mary Slagelmilk, and I lead the K-12 business strategy for Cisco. I am an educator. I am not technical. And people say, yeah, you talk a lot of technical stuff. Well, I have been with Cisco now 13 years. I came from a district administration position in Nebraska, the largest school district in Nebraska. So if you know your geography, you can kind of guess what school district I was probably with. And I led all digital learning initiatives there, and a lot of it had to do with hybrid education and a lot with one-to-one programs, things like that. Today, we are so happy to be here because we are going to talk about AI in education. And I want to draw your attention to this QR code, this bottom one. This is a lot of resources for you in AI and education, but AI as a whole. It's a framework, it's a readiness index. It is a space where you can get some information on, well, if we're developing a policy about AI, what should we be considering in our district? These are some of the same policies that we use within Cisco. And of course, we know that there are so many different AIs, but as we embed AI into our technologies, as we use AI within the company, I mean, there's an AI that we're allowed to use in our company, but there's other AIs we're not allowed to use on our computers that are, company computers. We have definite policies because of PII. We have company policies because of the things that we're doing. So as you develop policies for your staff, different from your policies for your faculty, and of course, different policies on how to use it in education with your students, these resources that you see here could help you develop that framework and give you some of those ideas of things to consider. All of the states are really working on how do you use AI in education. We are going to share with you today some things that we're really pretty excited about. So as we go on, what does Cisco have to do with education? Because everybody knows Cisco as the technology company that has the access point that's running route switch. We're really running that fourth utility in your district, but we are so important that we're really that fourth utility. And if the network goes down, many times your building automation system with your heating air conditioning won't work as well, because that has sensors that's doing a lot of sensing the air quality in the room. It's deciding that that time of day is after lunch. Maybe we need to cool the air in the classrooms and make it run faster to keep children awake and to help teachers have a good environment. All of this has really come out as a very important piece after the pandemic especially. How do we keep that air clean? So as we're looking at things within the educational climate, we are paying attention to what's happening in the K-12 schools and how the public schools are losing enrollment, but the private, the charter, the parent pods, the home networks are gaining enrollment. Well, what is that enticement? Why is that happening? And what do we need to do to help in technology so that you do have choice and you're picking where you really do want students to be, and you're developing programs that you need. Now, one of the biggest things that we know is cyber preparedness in the schools is like the number one piece that schools are really concerned about. I'm sorry, but schools are where the phishing happens. And so how can we help with that? And what we have noticed is 3 years ago, I tried having conversations with districts and they would say, oh yeah, we can't do multi-factor authentication. Our teachers can't, that's not something we can do and our students can't handle it. Well, then now we found out that the cyber insurance companies are saying if you don't have multi-factor authentication, you're not getting cyber insurance. So we've worked hard within Cisco to make sure that Duo, our platform for multi-factor authentication, is a platform that is easy for schools to use and implement. So as we go on, I say it's the perfect storm that's happening. The facilities and the building systems, the education systems, and IT are all coming together to really take care of so much that's happening, whether it is cyber safety, physical safety, does it have to do with the IoT of the buildings? I have a lot of school districts that say, we have to have robotic mops, vacuum cleaners, and mowers because we're having trouble getting custodial staff. Well, so the robotics team is now programming those robots that are running in the schools. So they're really kind of thinking about IoT on the network. And then, of course, how do we deal with personalized engagement? And this is a passion of mine, and we're partnered up with the Learning Council, so are the rest of the sessions today. We'll talk about how to truly personalize that engagement. And so I'm just going to say a few things that we're going to dig into is the WebEx suite today and how AI is embedded in the collaboration piece to make teaching easier, truly easier. So we're going to go on. This is it's too much print on this, but just know these guys are going to talk a little bit about how classrooms can go from the smallest classroom to a large classroom, and that experience is the same for a faculty member from room to room to room. They don't have to go, oh, how do I run the system in this room now? Especially at the high school level where teachers move from room to room. This is important as we think about all of what we build AI into, but also where Cisco specifically has people thinking about education. And as we do that, one of our last things, let's go on one more. When we talk about cybersecurity, we're taking it very seriously. And so the FCC has launched a pilot program this next year where schools can apply for cybersecurity platforms. And we are answering that call to make it easier for you. So this is a little bit, if you want this slide, I'll bring it back up later. But just know that Cisco is making sure that we're bundling everything to keep it easy for you to deploy to school. So with that, I'm going to introduce Mark and Morgan.
Hello.
They're from the WebEx team, and they're from the beta team that has been working on embedding AI into that collaboration platform. So with that, here you go.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Good. I'm Mark. This is Morgan.
Hey, everyone. I'm Morgan VanEsselstine.
All right. Some of you have probably talked to us outside. We've been giving demos for the past couple of days, talking about some of these AI features, as well as some of our equipment out there. Out of curiosity, actually, how many of you have joined our wizarding sessions that have also been going on? Anybody here?
All right.
Looks like one or two, couple. Cool. They're really fun. I highly recommend coming and joining in on them. They're going to blast, actually, and they're all Harry Potter themed. Aside from that, we're actually also having a little reception later this afternoon. So if you see these cards, there's a QR code on them. Feel free to scan that and RSVP for that reception. We're going to have some food and drinks, some more demos, and can have some more conversations and stuff at that time.
And you don't have to leave the convention center. It's right here in this room.
Yes, exactly. Our whole presentation, though, kind of going into that wizarding world is actually how it's not magic, right? WebEx collaboration with AI for teaching and learning is not magic. It's here today. It's already in our platform. It's already available to you within there. And as we go forward, we'll talk a little bit more about the various aspects. Most of everybody in here has probably heard of WebEx, right? All right, good. So you're familiar with the various modes that we have, or the various capabilities that we have in regards to calling, messaging, meetings, whiteboarding, webinars, events, polling, video, all that good stuff. Our platform is strictly based and set up around AI, security, manageability, and sustainability. Our AI models do not learn off of your content. That privacy for the students and for the teachers stays with you, the students and the teachers, and the admin that run the control hub that we'll talk about. So moving on, if you don't mind. So one of our key kind of statements that we like to say here is that WebEx and the Cisco AI Assistant helps power a more inclusive and accessible future for both teachers and students. Accessibility and inclusivity. You're going to hear us talk about that quite a bit here in regards to our AI features and some of the other features that are available. We have some real world examples that we're going to be sharing with you that where the WebEx environment has come into play with some local schools, and it's been very powerful to be able to help some of the students feel more included and access some of the knowledge available to them within their district. So first thing we're going to start off here is the AI assistant in and out of sessions. Morgan's going to take that part over.
All right. All right, everyone. Well, thanks again for coming. So yeah, as Mark said, we're going to talk about the AI assistant in and out of sessions, AI generated session summaries. So, and we'll actually show you kind of a live demo of this right after we go through these slides. So right now we actually have a WebEx meeting running kind of in the background. So hopefully this little tiny microphone on the computer is picking up my voice, and then we're going to go through and summarize it so you can actually see how it does it real time. It's super neat. So first thing I want to call out here is going to be the summarize, right? So that was just kind of what I was talking about. You could have it so, hey, this session, this classroom, this meeting is an hour long. I want to summarize everything in here, right? You could also do a catch me up feature, which is like the last 15 minutes. I think it's probably happened to all of us where we're going to be on a meeting, a classroom. Hey, the doorbell rings. We got to step away for a second. We get a phone call. We got to step away for a second. So when we come back, hey, what did I miss? So you could hit summarize, catch me up, and we'll actually go through and catch you up on the last 15 minutes or the last hour, however much you need. The next one here is, was my name mentioned? This is a really cool feature. So in those scenarios where you step away for a second, hey, did anyone call my name? It will actually say, hey, yes, your name was called. Here's what was said. Or no, your name was not mentioned. And then, of course, the third one here is, what are the action items? This is a really great feature, especially for when you're like working on a project, right? Whether it's a classroom, big meeting, you can focus more in on the actual content being talked about. So you're not having to take a bunch of notes. I know I'm very guilty of it where I start taking notes and wait, what did they say? What did I miss, right? So what are the action items? This is really helpful, especially in those project settings in a classroom where you could have kind of those action items laid out for each person.
Out of curiosity, real quick, how many of you have seen the movie Inside Out? Yes. The first one, not the second one yet. All right, cool. So yesterday, and Morgan's going to talk a little bit more about his stuff that he's done. I had to copy him, honestly, because like it was amazing just to be able to see how it was done. But I fed a YouTube video through a meeting and ran the audio inside of there. It was a recap on that movie Inside Out to be able to see how it captured the summary of that video, and it broke it down really interesting, and it even captured some of the action items, such as like I think it was like saving the control panel or something.
Alert.
Oh yeah. Sorry for anybody that hasn't seen it, but it was like saving the control panel, like have
save headquarters.
I don't remember the girl's name right now, but like help her with the move to San Francisco. Riley.
Yeah,
Okay, Riley.
Right.
But it was really cool. I could show you it here when we're done. I have it on my computer out there, but he'll show you some more really cool stuff.
And on that same note, one of the things I wanted to try doing is I was like, I want to try running maybe a documentary through this summary and see what happens, right? So I actually played a David Attenborough documentary about humpback whales and just let it kind of play in the meeting. And who doesn't love a documentary, especially whales, David Attenborough, right? So anyway, watched it, and then I was like, let's see how well it does with summarization. So I went through and summarized it, and sure enough, it was like spot on, had everything just bolted out. Really impressive. All right. So this was that catch me up in the meeting. And as I was talking about, as you can see, this was actually the summary that I was talking about, where it went through and it gave me a quick summary of what was in that documentary. Now, in the actual, that catch me up feature, I could say, hey, I want the last 15 minutes, right? So this was the 15-minute example, and I could hit summarize more. So if I need more than 15 minutes, I could select that and go back to like the last hour at the start of the session. All right, let's, next one. Yep, got it. You got it. Yep. All right, so the next one is we're gonna be talking about AI summaries in messaging. This is a really sweet feature. All right, so what we did here is in this example, went through and we got a kind of a paragraph from an oceanic site about whales. Hey, we're on a whale topic today, right? So went through, plugged it in here and said, hey, can you summarize just this unread message here? Went through and summarized it right there, and it did it immediately. It was really cool. And we could show you an example of that here in just a few minutes. The other thing you could do is, say if you're on like PTO, you're gone for, like I was saying, 3 days, a week, you come back and there's 3,000 messages. It's like, hey, this is gonna take half a day to get through. You could actually go through and say, summarize the entire space. And it will go through and start summarizing what everyone was talking about. This is really good for classroom settings, right? So you as a teacher, if you're working with your students and they're all collaborating on a project, right, or on a topic in class, you can see what everyone's talking about. You want to?
No, that's
okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's a huge way to be able to have breakout sessions where students can collaborate with each other, right, and message each other, and then work on a project. And then you, as a teacher, can go through, summarize what they've been talking about, and see exactly like, okay, where they're at within the project and things along those lines.
And on a personal note, especially after this week being here at ISTE, right, which is awesome, when I go back to the office, I'll definitely be using this feature, catch up on all my messages.
No doubt, no doubt.
Oh,
WebEx. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the main benefits of the suite is that
It's
one installation, and it is everything that you're hearing and seeing about.
And everything's built into one application. You have meetings, callings, messaging, async video, and so on. And of course, all your integrations you want to put in there as well. Cool. All right. So what we did is we're going to be talking about the thread translation, and this is real-time translation in messaging, which is super neat, right? So I think a lot of us who use IM tools, we've probably had to do this where we take the message, copy it, put it in a translation tool, put it in there, copy it out of there, put it back into our IM tool. There we go. And hopefully it's right. So in this example, we actually took that same message about whales and put it in here. And in the actual WebEx application, which we'll show you here in just a moment, you could select your language or your preferred language. And in this one, it's actually set to Spanish, but there's tons of languages in there. I mean, there's all the popular languages. We even have 2 different instances of Klingon, which is pretty cool, right?
So, everybody speak that? No? Okay, cool. We want to test that.
Yeah, we actually got to test that. So yeah, in this example, we just translated a single message. However, if you have someone who needs to translate all their messages, you could do that. You could go into an individual space, so any messages that come through, they get automatically translated. One of the questions we get a lot here is, how accurate is it? Is it pretty accurate? How is it? So we were demoing this, I think it was Sunday, and someone stopped by and said, how accurate is this? Well, let's try it out. So we actually went through and we actually took one of these messages, had it translate real time, and the person said, all right, let me give it a go. And after reading it for a minute, they said, it's spot on. So I was like, hey, that's good feedback. Of course, if there's something not on, we always like that feedback as well.
That's where the beta program comes into play, right? We iterate based off of the feedback within that community. The beta program is free to sign up. We're going to have QR codes. The QR codes are also on all of our devices. But that beta program will allow you access to a community where you can speak directly with the developers, you can speak with engineers, product managers, speak with each other in regards to your use cases, in regards to what you're experiencing. And you do it all within a production environment without impacting your users. So that community is very much live, and we take it very seriously. And oftentimes we change our products midstream based off of the feedback within that community. So please join into the conversation with us.
It's totally free to join. It's awesome.
Yes.
All right. So as I was talking a little bit more before about the AI summaries. So this is during a meeting, you could of course summarize what was happening in the meeting, and then afterwards, you get this awesome screen all within the WebEx app, and Mark will show you the container here in just a second. But you could see, well, it's probably a little hard to see, but it says About, Meeting Summary, and Transcript. So this is going to be the meeting summary, and again, it will kind of show you all the bullet points of everything that was talked about in that actual meeting. The next one here is going to be Transcript, so it will actually show you who said what. So say if Mark and I are having a meeting going back and forth, conversating, it will show, I said this, Mark said this. Now, there's a really cool feature inside of this, which is the search feature, which I also really love, especially for those sessions, trainings, meetings where they're an hour long, and you're like, hey, someone was talking about something XYZ. I could go into the transcript and look for XYZ, and it will show me all the spots XYZ was mentioned, which is really powerful. All right, there you go.
All right, and as Morgan had mentioned here, right, we have the meeting recap section. It's also kind of a fancy word for it is the post-meeting container. But essentially, this is your one-stop shop for all of that content, right? We have your meeting summary, your transcript, your recording, your chat messages. All of that content is in one place for both you as an educator and your students to be able to access at any point in time with those search features, with the the capability to be able to play that recording back at like 1.25 speed, to be able to search your chat messages or obtain the content that was shared within that chat message. If you share a workbook or something along those lines within the meeting or within the session, that is retained within there for them to be able to access later on. The meeting summary and everything, as we've already kind of talked about, all of that content lives privately within those containers.
Oh, a question?
If you're using the transcript option, is there a capability to click on it and go back to that part of the video?
There's not, but there is a portion of the
Was that?
Sorry? Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the question
Great
was,
question.
within the transcript, is there a way to be able to click on a portion of the transcript and automatically jump to that portion of the recording?
If there is a recording, yeah. So we in the recording feature, we do have like a chapters and summaries thing, which is also AI, and it does that for you automatically. I think if you're in the actual transcript, you'll get a timestamp of when it was at, but then you could actually go through and look back on the recording at that timestamp in that chapter and summary. Yep. And same with
Join the beta, though, please. That's the
It's-
kind of
yeah.
feedback that we
Yeah.
want, because that
Absolutely.
interaction, that engagement, we're going to take that. Like, let's write that down,
Let's
because
take it back.
that interaction between that transcript mode and the recording, that'd be amazing. Right now, it's all built into the recording, and you could just jump around in the recording, right? Like you were saying. But to switch back and forth between them easily like that,
Yeah.
that's the feedback we want.
Oh, another question. Oh.
Regarding the transcript and the meeting summary, if the situation is like, let's say me and a couple of my colleagues are in like a small huddle room, and we're bringing someone else out into the outside, I guess partnered with your hardware maybe, is there a way to identify, okay, like Tom said this, Joe said this, even though we're all coming through like the same device?
Oh, through the same connection.
In a huddle.
Yeah. So right now that is a limitation. Right now that is a limitation, but I have heard that is on the roadmap, something we are trying to work on, some logistics to try to figure out, right? So we're actually in this example, that's a good question. So right now on this laptop, Mark and I are both talking, but it's picking it up. So on the transcript, it'll show as just me. Yep. But something it's hopefully on the future release.
Yep.
And
Yes.
you also had
Sorry.
Does this work if someone sends me like a Microsoft Teams or Google Meet, or will I have to be the owner of the meeting and I send it out and then I get all of the different features?
So our AI features and capabilities like this are all built directly within WebEx. Unfortunately, they don't reach out into Microsoft Teams or Zoom and so on. So you would have to host the meeting within WebEx for that capability. Our devices, though, are completely vendor agnostic, and that's something that we are very proud of. Meaning that the reality is that not everybody uses WebEx, and while that hurts our hearts, we want to help you all the same. So our devices, if you look at them and feel free to play around with them, you'll notice, Google Meet, but there's a button for Google Meet, there's a button for Microsoft Teams, there's a button for Zoom, right? We want to help you get connected into those meetings all the same, even though other people might be hosting via those programs. So.
Okay, so if you're in a WebEx meeting,
Mhm.
you're not the host, can you still get the summary and all the information, or is it only the owner of the meeting?
So the host will have to start it. And also when the host starts it, for privacy concerns, is when someone does start the summarization features, even if they join the meeting late or the session late, they will get a notification saying, hey, this meeting is being transcribed and summarized. And then if it's being recorded, they'll also get notification of that as well.
But the host will only have the note, right?
They have the power to activate the feature.
Yeah.
Post meeting, this container is available for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So if they turn it on, right, and say I'm an attendee, and I'm like, oop, Amazon's at the door, I'll be back. I come back and I'm like, okay, what did I miss? There you go. And so yeah, they could do it. Yep.
Go ahead.
Kind of building off of her question,
Yeah.
and what you were saying about the video summary.
Mhm.
If we recorded it in Zoom or had a file, could we put it into WebEx and get those features?
Yeah, I mean, you could just play it as a
Like,
desktop
yeah,
share with the
actually
audio.
have it
And
transcribed
import it
do
and-
all that,
Yeah, because that's pretty much what I did with
Right.
a YouTube video
but
documentary.
it
So,
worked the same
yeah.
way.
Yeah,
and
that's what I did
summarize
with
it, yeah.
Inside Out.
Yeah, and that's what I did with the whale documentary. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, I stole your thunder. I took that from you. Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. It's
I
fun
was
to play
jealous.
with.
I
It's cool to play with.
wanted my summary of that movie. I hadn't seen it.
I know. I'm like,
I really
other,
hadn't.
what other
Sorry.
things can we put in there? It's like, it's super neat.
Okay, next one. All right, the step away from the session. So AI is not only built into our messaging in our meeting, but it's actually built directly in, our AI models are built directly into our video as well. One of the cool features that we like to show is the step away function, right? Our AI model identifies whether or not a person is in frame or not. And if they are not, then after a short period of time, it'll change their video icon to a little cup of coffee and saying that they've stepped away. This helps in those scenarios with remote learning in case the student steps away, right, and the camera's still on in the background and who knows what's going on back there, right? Like we want to be able to shut down that video and mute that audio line. And that's what the AI assistant automatically does. It identifies that that person stepped out of frame, and then it stops the video, switches to this little icon, and mutes that audio participant right off the bat. Additionally, it will remain that way until that participant comes back and manually clicks, I am back. Because we don't want, the AI assistant to say, oh, hey, that person's back in frame, but it may not actually be that person, or it may be something else, going on, or they may not be fully back or ready. And in that scenario, the video and audio on mute and everything, and who knows what's going on again. But so we have that manual interaction to be able to remove that icon and unmute themselves once again. Really comes in handy with kind of stopping any kind of errors within the session.
And also, one thing to add to this is I was playing around with this feature. Is like, okay, if I say drop my pen on the floor and just do one of these, take it up and go out of the frame, just wanted to make sure it didn't turn off, right? But it takes a couple seconds. I mean, it's something if you just bend over, hey, picked up something off the ground, and it's still going to remain on. But again, if you step away for a few seconds, it's going to know. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have a standing desk and I pace a lot when I'm at home. So like, this is me in front of my Desk Pro system a lot, and yeah, I frequently walk out of frame. I don't think about it. Next one. Okay, cool. So the next one I'm going to talk about is Slido and polling. So our focus around this is really around inclusivity. And one of the cool things that we've seen, or one of the cool ways that we've seen this used is for students who are a little bit more introverted, who feel nervous about asking questions in front of, of their peers or in front of other people. And they don't want that additional spotlight on them. So in that scenario, they can utilize Slido, which is built in directly into the WebEx environment, to be able to ask those questions. You as an educator can utilize Slido to be able to launch polling questions, do quizzes, word bubbles. Word bubbles are used so often inside Cisco as an icebreaker, and they are the perfect way to be able to gauge where your audience is at in a session right off the bat and get the brain start going, right? Because you could say something just as simple, like for common with us at least, is like, where are you from? Just something as simple as that. And everybody starts typing in. It's like, oh, you see the words, the locations start to get bigger as more people answer that particular location, all of that stuff. So it really gets that engagement going, and they start to feel a little bit more comfortable within the environment, right? Launching into Q&A, asking those questions, you can answer them privately, or you can answer them, over the actual lesson. With a particular engagement that we had here locally,
such a cool. Yeah.
We had gone to a school and we were giving a demo and a presentation, and in that scenario, the students were sitting in on this, and they started to utilize the Slido feature because we had a QR code up there, and they started to utilize that in that exact real life scenario. They are very introverted students, and they were engaged, asking us questions about how our product can be utilized for gaming, for game development, things along those lines. And I talked to the teacher of the location that I was at that time, and he flat out told me, he was like, those are some of the more introverted students I've ever had. They do not engage in person. But they were completely engaged, not only paying attention to what was being discussed and displayed, but they were also engaging by asking questions that he had never heard himself in person, and so on. So they felt comfortable enough with the environment, comfortable enough with the equipment, with everything, to be able to, bridge that gap and start to feel included a little bit more. Right. Along those lines as well, right, is sign language interpretation. And I'll let Morgan tell a cool story about this one, because this was actually in the location, same kind of visit, but it was in his location where this really applied. But we have a lot of cool features such as closed captioning, real-time translation. Those things have already existed within WebEx for a while now, and they're only enhanced by our AI capabilities now. But while this may not be AI, this is extremely beneficial because it is a part of that inclusivity, right? That accessibility. We have the capability to set up multiple channels for sign language interpretation. This is hugely beneficial for those that are, unfortunately, unable to hear that well, and they need an interpreter. And once again, I'll kick it to Morgan to kind of give his example, but it's a great story of how an ASL interpreter actually got a break because of our equipment.
Yeah, it's a really good story, or I think it is. But we were doing, again, that career day. People were asking about networks, WebEx, all kinds of cool stuff. And the location I was at, they had 2 ASL interpreters taking, 15-minute turns doing the interpretation. So I kicked on the closed captioning on one of our devices. It was actually a board. It's kind of like out in front there. And we noticed after a little bit, the ASL interpreter kind of looked over and realized the closed captioning was going on, and then the student was not looking at the interpreter anymore, was just kind of focusing on the closed captioning. And she actually came up and said, "Hey, this is great." And they didn't have to do the interpretation anymore. The student was able to follow along, interact with the closed captioning. It was really cool.
Yep. So all of this ties into the question that the lady that was sitting over there had earlier, right? All of this ties into the WebEx suite. It's all there today. It contains 10 different workloads, all adminned by a single point of control, and that's what we call Control Hub. This is where your retention capabilities come into play. This is where your privacy capabilities all come into play. You set those as an admin. Multiple modalities, the ability to be able to connect via desktop PC, mobile device, desk device, room device. You see some of these today, right? This is an example right here. This is a RoomKit Mini that sits on top of any kind of monitor. We've seen a lot of schools set these up on a platform like this with rollers and a big monitor, and the students have been able to move those around a library and set up little breakout rooms themselves and work on projects and collaborate with students in other schools regarding those projects. Those boards, like the one that we have out there, right, being able to whiteboard or utilize some of our integrations such as Jib, and that's what we talk about right down here, right? Jib, bridging that digital and analog surfaces. Slido, to Sane, which is actually a content management integration. It'll identify credit card numbers, social security numbers, any kind of foul language within messaging. It'll automatically delete it immediately and then notify not only the person that sent that message, but the admin as well. Interop support. We talked about this already, right? Not everybody uses WebEx. We're going to help you get connected all the same. Next one, please, buddy. Cool. So in recap, right, our focus is around inclusivity and accessibility, our AI-powered future through the summarization capabilities, and more, and then our interaction engagement through Slido, Jib, to Sane, and then control and privacy. Once again, key thing with that is that our models do not learn off of your content. That is a huge thing with those LLMs now today. I think that is it. The beta program, if you want to be able to join, there's the QR code for that. It's also on any of the devices. Once again, just a little reminder, RSVP, and what else?
Cool. And if you still have a few minutes, I would like to show you everything we've been talking about here. We're going to actually have the meeting summarize it. So hopefully this little microphone captured everything.
The actual demo.
The actual demo. All right. So this is, wait for it to catch up there. I'm going to take it out of a presentation mode. Cool. It's not technical difficulties. I'm sorry.
There's not. It is completely free.
Oh, there we go. Cool. There we are. So this is the WebEx app. This is a real version of it. This is the one this is a lab that I set up just for this conference. But as you can see, we have messaging, meetings, callings, vidcast, which is like an async video. A lot of teachers like to use this for, hey, we're going to create like a quick 2-minute video, send it out to our students. We could send it out. It could be a public link. We can have it completely locked down to a certain domain, to a specific person. It's really cool.
You can load it into your LMS.
You can, load it into your LMS. All right, so as you can see, this is the meeting here. It's just myself in here. I'm just hanging out by myself in this meeting, which is cool. So I'm going to say, hey, catch me up. So what it's going to go through now is checking the transcript, analyzing the content, generating summary, and here it goes. Cool.
So it's capturing all of that content through the session that we just talked about, the Slido integration, the Control Hub, the AI models, and WebEx can identify different languages, provide closed captioning in real-time translation, clickable transcript. That was the question we had earlier, right?
Yep.
So on. So all of that is captured directly within that summarization.
And so that was the last 15 minutes. And I could say, hey, I want to summarize this a little bit more. So I'm going to say from the summary start. And it's going to give us a little bit more information here. And there it goes.
And you can see how quick it's capturing that as well. It's gathering all of that.
And then, of course, once I end this meeting, it will take maybe about 5 minutes or so, and then we'll actually show it in kind of that single container where I can send it out to everyone, like do whatever I need to with it. It's really nice. Again, it's one of those really handy tools where I personally went back through and it's like, okay, what was talked about? I could focus more on the actual content. Students could focus more on the content versus taking notes. Saves a lot of time. But yeah, so if you want to see any demos, check anything out, we'll be out front. If you want to play around with it, just have any questions, just let us know. And then again, we strongly advise signing up for that beta. And then again, we'll have a reception this evening. We'd recommend coming by, checking it out. It'll be from 5 to 6:30. Again, got to register here with this little QR code. But yeah, thanks again for stopping by.
And if you want the spoiler for Inside Out, come see me.
Need Q&A.
Any questions at all? Oh.
So, what happens if we have a white enterprise solution with a flex price? Do we automatically get that for all of our users?
Ooh, so
If you utilize WebEx today,
Yeah.
this is in WebEx today.
So if you have the WebEx suite, you'll have options to all these, and you don't have to give everyone. So say if you only want to give some users just meetings, you could give some users just meetings. You could give some teachers, you could give them the whole suite, including calling. But if you're using a soft phone solution, I mean, you could really configure the licenses.
So on the hub control, can I control the privacy for all my teachers? Teachers are not going to go through the back, of all the settings of.
1000%. You as the admin could go through and you could say, hey, I want none of my teachers to have this. You could say, hey, I only want group A to have this. And then of course, as an admin, of course, I always recommend testing everything beforehand. And you could go through and you could say, hey, we're going to create a group with these permissions. And you could have like an IT group. You could have a test group set in Control Hub. So everyone in that group could test, but everyone in the rest of your production org has no idea those features are even there.
You can create a scenario in which just the special ed teachers have certain permissions because they need the transcription, the translation for all of their IEP meetings, things like that. So the certain departments you can group those teachers and then move the video even into certain file areas if you want to keep it in-house. So there's a lot of flexibility with this that you can assign to groups, determining whether it's teachers and staff and students, things like that.
And one other note on that. So right here, not the screen here, but this, back on this guy. Perfect. So, I mean, I have the whole suite here, but if, say if you had a teacher, you said, hey, we only want to give this teacher, say, messaging or just meetings. Once you remove those licenses, they'll actually only see this. So they don't have buttons that go nowhere to avoid confusion and whatnot. It's a question we get a lot of, like, hey, if we remove this license, are they still going to see the option for it? So, but they won't.
So given some of the sensitive nature of things like in IEP meetings, what are some of the assurances or steps Cisco have that the closed captions, the summaries, and all that are kept secure and private on Cisco's end?
So those are all retained strictly within the Cisco cloud, and they are also subject to your attention settings within the Control Hub. So you have the capability to set it as small as, I think, like an hour or never, honestly.
You could say, hey, I want to delete everything constantly, and you could set it for 5 years. I mean, you could really get granular with how you want that retention, that data retention. Because I've actually worked with some customers that they don't want, essentially in chat, for instance, they don't want any of the chat files, anything like. So the next day when they come in, everything is wiped. It's like, or say there's another one too where every week it starts over. They're like, hey, we don't want the last 7 days. After 7 days, we don't want that. So you could get really granular. And then we also have a really great data privacy sheet. It's about 24 pages long.
Just going to reference that.
It's
a little bit of light reading for
but it's
you.
really cool. It talks about everything from data residency. I mean, it goes through the whole thing. It's amazing, and we could get that link for you too. And then of course, if it's really easy to find. It's one of those things where it's not like buried in a document. It's like you Google it, you can find it. But I could also get it for you out in front there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. If anybody's up for a game of tic-tac-toe, I'll show you how Jib operates.
He's only been beat like twice. It's crazy.
No, that's not true. Like 4 times? I got wrecked like 3 times yesterday. Doing good today, though.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.